The hyperdrive failure happened 3 jumps into their desperate flight from the Wraith superhive. Atlantis's ancient power systems fluctuating wildly as Dr. Rodney McKay screamed warnings about catastrophic energy cascades and dimensional barriers collapsing. And this is not scientifically possible, but it's happening anyway. The city ship shuddered violently, its shields flaring as reality itself seemed to reject their presence. Space-time warping around 10-million-year-old technology that was designed to travel between galaxies, but had never been intended to breach dimensional barriers. "We're not in the Pegasus galaxy anymore," Major John Shepard shouted from the command chair, his ancient gene screaming warnings through the neural interface as Atlantis' sensors showed impossible readings. "McKay, where are we?" "I don't know," Rodney replied, with the panicked honesty of scientists watching every law of physics he understood get violated simultaneously. "The stellar cartography doesn't match any database. The background radiation is wrong. The gravitational constants are shifted. We're not just in a different galaxy. We're in a different reality, a different universe with its own physical laws that are similar to ours, but with critical differences that—" "English, Rodney," Colonel Samantha Carter interrupted. The SGC's foremost expert on ancient technology had been visiting Atlantis when the dimensional breach occurred, and her presence was currently the only thing keeping McKay from complete breakdown. "What are we looking at?" "We're looking at a galaxy approximately 100,000 light-years in diameter," Rodney explained, his fingers flying across ancient consoles with desperate efficiency. "Populated by thousands of sentient species, possessing technology that's— oh my God. Sam, are you seeing this? There are millions of faster-than-light capable vessels, billions of beings capable of space travel. This isn't just advanced civilization. This is galactic civilization that makes the ancients look like we were primitive by comparison. On Atlantis' sensors, the readings were overwhelming. Massive fleet deployments that numbered in the thousands. Weapons platforms capable of destroying planets. Space stations the size of moons. And everywhere, energy signatures that felt wrong to sensors calibrated for their home universe. "That's not hyperdrive technology," Carter observed, studying the readings with expert's eye. "The FTL drives these ships are using. They're operating on completely different principles, not slipping into subspace, but actually manipulating space-time itself to—" She paused, her expression shifting from confusion to AW. "They're using something similar to what we theorize the ancients' earliest experimental drives might have been, but refined, perfected across millions of years of development we never saw." "Colonel Shepard," Dr. Elizabeth Weir's voice came through the command center's comm system. Atlantis' leader rushing from her quarters where the dimensional breach had caught her mid-sleep. "Status report. Are we under attack? What's our tactical situation?" "Unclear," Shepard replied, his hands never leaving the command chair's controls as he interfaced with the city ship's defensive systems. "We're detecting massive military presence. Fleets that make the Wraith Armada look like Coast Guard patrol. But no one's shooting at us yet. Probably because they're too shocked seeing an entire city just appear out of dimensional rift in the middle of their space. We're being scanned," Taylor Emigan reported from the sensor station, her Athosian sensitivity to energy making her ideal for detecting subtle probes. "Multiple sources, different technologies. Some feel invasive, like they're trying to penetrate our shields and examine our internal systems. Others are more cautious. Long-range observation attempting to determine what we are. Ronan, Shepard, called to his Satadan teammate. Get security teams to full alert. I don't know if we're about to make first contact or fight our way out of ambush, but I want us ready for both. On it. Ronan Dex replied, with Warrior's efficiency, already moving to coordinate Atlantis' defensive forces. Combination of Earth military personnel, Athosian warriors, and various refugees from Pegasus Galaxy, who'd made the ancient city their home. The comm systems activated, not through Atlantis' technology, but through external broadcast that simply bypassed their security protocols through sheer technological superiority. A holographic image materialized in the command center, human female wearing robes that suggested authority. Her expression mixing curiosity with calculated assessment that Weir recognized as diplomatic evaluation. Unknown vessel. The woman stated in language that shouldn't be comprehensible, but was, because whatever translation technology she employed operated at conceptual level rather than linguistic. You have entered Coruscant orbital space without clearance, broadcasting no identification, employing technology that our sensors cannot classify. I am Senator Padme Amidala of the Galactic Senate. On behalf of the Republic, I request you identify yourselves and explain your presence before our defense forces classify you as hostile and respond accordingly. The Atlantis command team exchanged glances. Silent communication that came from years of facing impossible situations together. Well, Shepard observed, with the dry humor that had gotten him through countless near-death experiences. I guess we're about to explain that we're a city-sized ancient outpost from an entirely different universe that accidentally breached dimensional barriers while fleeing vampire space aliens. That should go over well. I'll handle the diplomacy, Weir said, stepping forward with practiced composure that had negotiated treaties with everything from genii, warlords, to Asgard High Council. But Rodney, I need to know, can we get back? Is this dimensional breach reversible? McKay's expression carried answer before his words did. The energy required to breach dimensional barriers again, to punch back through to our home universe, would require multiple zero-point modules operating at full capacity for sustained period. We have one ZPM, partially depleted. We're stuck here until we can find power source sufficient to create another dimensional rift, which means we're stranded in an entirely different universe. Carter finished grimly. In a galaxy we don't understand, surrounded by civilizations we've never encountered, with technology that exceeds our own in ways we haven't even begun to comprehend. And our only option is to make diplomatic contact and hope they're friendly, rather than deciding an ancient city ship represents threat worth eliminating. No pressure, Shepard muttered. Weir activated the communication. Response. Her diplomatic training, letting her project confidence despite the absolute chaos of their situation. Senator Amidala, I am Dr. Elizabeth Weir, leader of the Atlantis expedition. We are not hostile. We're refugees from another dimension. Yes, I know that sounds impossible, but your sensors will confirm we're not from this universe. We didn't choose to arrive here. Dimensional breach during emergency FTL transit brought us to your galaxy accidentally. We request asylum while we determine whether return to our home dimension is possible. We have no hostile intent toward your republic or any civilization in this galaxy. Padme's expression shifted, skepticism giving way to fascination and calculation. Another dimension? That exceeds even our most theoretical physics. I'll need to consult with the Jedi Council and Republic Command. Can you maintain your current position without engaging in any military action? We have fleets converging on your location. They're operating under defensive protocols. As long as you don't fire on anything, they'll simply observe while we determine how to proceed. We'll hold position, Weir confirmed. But Senator, you should know, our city is armed, heavily armed. We've been fighting a war against an enemy that feeds on humans for years. Our defensive systems are automated in some cases. If your ships approach too aggressively, Atlantis might interpret it as attack and respond without our manual authorization. Please advise your forces to maintain respectful distance while we negotiate. Understood, Padme replied. I'm transmitting safe approach vectors. Your city is remarkable. Our sensors are having difficulty comprehending its architecture. It appears to be biological and technological simultaneously. Alive in ways our scientists can't explain. What species built this? The ancients, McKay interjected, unable to resist chance to lecture despite situation's gravity. Progenitor race that seeded life across our galaxy millions of years ago. Atlantis is their greatest achievement, city-sized outpost capable of space flight, equipped with weapons that can destroy solar systems, powered by technology that makes your most advanced systems look primitive by ow. Carter had elbowed him in the ribs. What Rodney means is that we're operating technology we don't fully understand from civilization that predates most galactic history. We're explorers and scientists, not conquerors. We want peaceful relations with your republic while we determine whether home is accessible. Padme's expression showed she recognized deflection when she saw it, but also appreciated the effort at diplomatic courtesy. The Jedi Council will want to examine your city. They're sensitive to what they call the Force, living energy that binds galaxy together. They're reporting that your Atlantis is creating disturbance in the Force. Not dark or light, just different. Like reality itself is uncomfortable with your presence. That's concerning, but also fascinating from a metaphysical standpoint. The Force? We're asked. We're not familiar with... The communication was interrupted as Atlantis's ancient sensors detected something new. Not Republic fleets with their conventional technology. Something older. Something that resonated with the city ship's systems in ways that made every ancient gene carrier in the command center shudder with recognition, despite having never encountered it before. Oh no, Shepard breathed, his connection to the command chair showing him what was coming. That's not friendly. That's... Guys, we've got incoming that registers as hostile on scales Atlantis hasn't activated since the war with the Wraith. Whatever's heading our way, the city thinks it's dangerous on existential level. On the sensors, pyramid-shaped ships emerging from hyperspace with grace that suggested malevolence given form, and broadcasting on frequencies that made Atlantis's ancient technology scream warnings about dark side corruption and Sith philosophy and tyranny that needed opposing. Sith Empire. Padme's voice carried urgency that transcended diplomatic courtesy. You've arrived during Galactic War. The Republic faces enemy that believes might makes right. That dark side of Force justifies domination. They've been monitoring our communications. They know you're stranded. Know you possess technology they want to study or destroy. You need to move. Get out of Coruscant space before they engage. We can't protect unknown vessel against Sith fleet while also defending the capital. We're not running, Shepard declared, the command chair responding to his determination by activating weapon systems that had remained dormant for millions of years. We've faced the Wraith, vampire aliens that feed on humans and command armadas. We've fought replicators that could consume galaxies. We've stood against impossible odds for years in Pegasus Galaxy. These Sith want to threaten us? Fine. Let's show them what happens when ancient technology meets galactic tyranny. Colonel, we are warned, we don't understand this galaxy's politics. We can't just start shooting. They're charging weapons. Ronan interrupted, his warrior's instincts reading tactical displays with expert precision. Sith ships are moving into attack formation. They're not here to talk. They're here to destroy or capture. We have maybe 30 seconds before they fire. Atlantis' shields activated, ancient energy barriers that had withstood orbital bombardment, nuclear detonations, and Wraith assault blazing to life with power that made Coruscant's defensive platforms look primitive by comparison. The Sith Empire fired, and the city that had crossed dimensions, that had survived 10 million years, that represented the ancients' greatest achievement, fought back. Drone weapons launched with precision that suggested the city remembered how to wage war despite eons of dormancy. Ancient energy weapons that could vaporize hive ships carved through Sith vessels with efficiency that made even seasoned warriors on both sides pause in shock. In the command center, as alarms blared and tactical displays showed impossible battle unfolding, Dr. Weir made the decision that would define Atlantis' place in this new galaxy. All hands, combat stations. We're at war, whether we wanted it or not. Colonel Shepard, show the Sith Empire what happens when they threaten ancient technology. Dr. McKay, get me everything our sensors know about this galaxy's physics and technology. Colonel Carter, coordinate with Republic forces. We're fighting alongside them, whether they're ready or not. She stood at the city's heart, watching through ancient sensors as Atlantis, city of the ancients, legend of the Pegasus Galaxy, symbol of exploration and discovery, became something it had never been intended to be. Weapon deployed in galactic war. It didn't understand, but would fight. Because that's what the Atlantis expedition did when faced with tyranny. And across Coruscant's orbital space, both Republic and Sith forces watched in awe as 10-million-year-old technology demonstrated that the ancients had reasons for building their cities to float and fight. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when Stargate met Star Wars, when ancient science met the Force, when exploration became warfare, and when Atlantis, city that had survived impossible odds across multiple galaxies, decided that surviving this dimension would require making it clear that some cities were fortresses first and homes second. The battle had begun. The Sith ships that had attacked Atlantis weren't Sith at all. A terminology error that Padme Amidala would have corrected if the Republic she served had still existed. The woman who'd made first contact was a holographic recording, an echo from 20 years ago when Coruscant had a Senate and democracy wasn't just memory. What attacked Atlantis was the Galactic Empire, and the Empire's response to an unknown city ship appearing in Coruscant orbit was exactly what 30 years of Imperial doctrine demanded. Overwhelming force deployed with prejudice. Questions asked after the threat was neutralized. Executor, the superstar destroyer that served as Darth Vader's personal flagship, emerged from hyperspace with the inexorable certainty of a guillotine falling, accompanied by 12 star destroyers, 400 TIE fighters, and enough firepower to reduce planets to molten slag. It represented the Empire's philosophy made manifest. Power so overwhelming that resistance was futile. On Atlantis's ancient sensors, the massive vessels registered as primitive compared to Wraith Hive ships. But there were so many of them, and their weapons, while technologically inferior, made up for sophistication through sheer volume. "They're serious about this," Shepard observed from the command chair, his ancient gene interface showing him tactical projections that made even his combat-hardened instinct scream warnings. "That lead ship, the triangular monster, it's 8 times larger than a Wraith cruiser, and it's got weapons that could crack a continent. McKay, are shields holding?" "For now," Rodney replied, his fingers flying across ancient consoles with desperate efficiency. "But the sheer volume of fire they're throwing at us is depleting the ZPM faster than I'm comfortable with. We can probably withstand another 3 hours of sustained bombardment, maybe 4 if I route power from non-essential systems. But eventually, basic thermodynamics wins. We don't have infinite energy, and they apparently have infinite ships willing to shoot at us." "The Empire is hailing us," Taylor reported from communications. "Multiple frequencies, standard diplomatic protocols mixed with what appear to be demands for immediate surrender. They're quite insistent." "Put them through," Weir ordered, stepping forward with diplomatic composure that had been forged through years of impossible negotiations. "But keep weapons armed. If they're talking, they're not shooting. That gives McKay time to work on our power situation." The holographic projection that materialized made everyone in the command center straighten involuntarily, not through any conscious decision, but through primal recognition of apex predator given humanoid form. Darth Vader stood 7 feet tall in armor that seemed designed to inspire terror, his respirator creating mechanical breathing that made each exhalation sound like death approaching, his presence radiating something that made Taylor gasp and clutch her chest as if the air had become heavier. "What is that?" she breathed. "I've sensed Wraith feeding. Face their psychic pressure. This is different, colder, more absolute, like standing before entity that has chosen darkness and made it strength rather than weakness." "That's the Force," Carter observed quietly, her experience with Goa old sarcophagus technology and Ori powers giving her framework for understanding metaphysical phenomena. Or specifically, what this galaxy calls the dark side. Padme's recording mentioned it, living energy corrupted by negative emotion and wielded as weapon. He's using it to intimidate us on psychological level before negotiations even begin. Classic power play. "I am Lord Vader," the Dark Lord stated, his mechanical voice carrying authority that made even ancient technology seem to pay attention. "Supreme Commander of the Imperial Fleet, Executor of the Emperor's will. You have entered Imperial space without authorization, deployed weapons against Imperial vessels, and demonstrated technology that represents security threat to galactic order. You will surrender your city immediately, submit to Imperial inspection, and prepare for relocation to facility where your capabilities can be properly assessed. Or, we are asked with diplomatic steel that it face down Wraith Queens and Asheran leaders. Or I will reduce your city to debris," Vader replied with casual certainty. "Your shields are impressive. Your weapons exceed standard parameters, but you face the full might of the Empire. 12 Star Destroyers, 400 fighters, orbital platforms converging on your position. You cannot escape, cannot flee. Your only options are cooperation or annihilation. Choose wisely. My patience is limited." "We're not surrendering," Shepard interjected, before Weir could respond with diplomatic nuance. We've faced worse odds. Fought enemies that would make your empire look friendly. We're not handing over ancient technology to anyone, especially not tyrannical government that shoots first and asks questions never. So here's our counteroffer. Back off. Let us leave peacefully, and we'll forget you tried to intimidate us with big ships. And Vader here can go back to whatever evil overlord activities occupy his time. Vader's respirator paused. Momentary silence, suggesting the Dark Lord was processing the sheer audacity of being dismissed so casually. You are remarkably arrogant for beings facing annihilation, Vader observed. The Force shows me your uncertainty, your fear beneath confident words. You're stranded in unfamiliar galaxy, desperate to appear strong when you're actually vulnerable. I sense no deception in your claim about different dimensions, which makes you valuable beyond mere technological acquisition. You possess knowledge of alternate realities, of dimensional travel. The Emperor will want you brought before him alive. Surrender, and your lives are spared. Resist. The Chasing Qing executor's main cannons fired, not at Atlantis, but at nearby Coruscant orbital platforms, destroying 3 Republic-era defense stations with precision that made the threat explicit. And I demonstrate that Imperial mercy has limits. He just killed thousands of people, Ronan stated flatly, his warrior's pragmatism cutting through diplomatic complexity. To make point, that's not negotiation. That's terrorism. We should shoot him. We should talk, Weir corrected, though her expression showed she agreed with Ronan's assessment. Lord Vader, we're not interested in your empire or its politics. We're refugees trying to find a way home. We'll leave your space immediately if you provide coordinates outside your territory. We have no desire for conflict. Your desires are irrelevant, Vader replied. Your capabilities make you threat, whether you intend hostility or not. The Emperor has decreed, unknown vessels possessing superior technology will be secured for Imperial benefit. You represent breakthrough that could revolutionize our military superiority. You will submit, or you will provide that breakthrough through wreckage that my scientists can study after your destruction. The choice is yours, but those are your only options. There's always another option, Carter said quietly, studying tactical displays with expert's eye. Rodney, the hyperspace window we came through. Is it still detectable? Could we jump back through it and escape into normal space of this galaxy at different coordinates? McKay's expression lit up with understanding. The dimensional rift is collapsing, but residual energy signatures are creating weakness in local spacetime. If we could expand that weakness, use the ZPM to force another jump, we could essentially teleport out of Coruscant space before the Empire can stop us. It would drain the ZPM to dangerous levels, maybe leave us with only weeks of power instead of months. But it would get us out of immediate danger. Do it, Shepard ordered. Vader, you seem like reasonable evil overlord, by which I mean terrifying, but at least honest about it. So I'll be straight with you. We're leaving. You can chase us if you want. But we're not surrendering ancient technology to Empire that destroys orbital platforms full of civilians to make diplomatic points. That's cartoon villain behavior, and we've dealt with actual villains before. You don't even make the top 10. Vader's respirator accelerated, mechanical breathing, suggesting something that might have been anger if Sith Lords acknowledged such primitive emotions. You dare. Hyperdrive activating, McKay shouted. Everyone hold on to something. This is going to be rough, because I'm essentially punching through damaged space-time with insufficient power reserves and hoping the city doesn't tear itself apart from dimensional stress. Atlantis lurched. The city ship engaged drives that hadn't been designed for this type of emergency transit. Ancient technology adapting with impressive flexibility to use the collapsing dimensional rift as shortcut through this galaxy's space-time. The last thing their sensors showed was Vader's flagship launching every fighter, every weapon, every system in desperate attempt to prevent their escape. Too late. Atlantis vanished from Coruscant space in flash of exotic radiation that made Imperial sensors scream error messages about impossible energy signatures and violation of established hyperspace parameters. They emerged 3 sectors away, far enough that immediate Imperial pursuit was unlikely, close enough that they hadn't fled to completely unknown regions. Status report, Weir demanded as alarms blared throughout the city. ZPM at 38%, McKay reported grimly. That emergency jump cost us 62% of our remaining power. We have maybe 3 weeks of full operational capability. Maybe a month if we shut down everything non-essential. After that, Atlantis becomes expensive monument to ancient engineering rather than functional city. Shields holding, Shepard confirmed. Weapons operational. We're alive, which wasn't guaranteed 10 minutes ago. I'm calling that a win, despite the power situation. We've entered asteroid field, Taylor observed. Large debris from what appears to be destroyed planet. Our sensors are detecting minimal signals, a few scattered settlements on larger asteroids, but nothing suggesting major civilization. We might have found temporary refuge. Temporary is all we need, Carter said, already planning with tactical efficiency that came from years at Stargate Command. We need to understand this galaxy, its politics, its technology, its conflicts. We walked into diplomatic disaster because we assumed the woman who contacted us represented current government. We need intelligence before making next move. And we need allies, Weir added. The Empire clearly wants to capture or destroy us. We can't survive, alone against galactic government with unlimited resources. We need to find opposition forces, resistance, anyone fighting against this Emperor who might see Atlantis as asset rather than threat. We need the rebellion, a new voice interjected. Everyone turned toward the source. Standing in the command center's doorway was a holographic figure that shouldn't be there, that Atlantis' security should have detected, that appeared to have simply manifested through ancient security protocols without triggering any alarms. The figure was robed. Simple brown garments that suggested monk rather than warrior. But his presence carried weight that made even Atlantis seem to acknowledge his significance. I am Obi-Wan Kenobi, the figure stated, his projection flickering with instability that suggested he was transmitting from considerable distance. Jedi Master in hiding since the Empire's rise. I've been monitoring Imperial transmissions, witnessed your arrival, observed your refusal to surrender to Vader, and recognized in your technology something I haven't seen since the days of the Old Republic. Innovation that could change the balance of galactic conflict. How are you broadcasting through our systems? McKay demanded, fascinated despite the security implications. We're using ancient encryption that should be unbreakable by local technology. You're penetrating it like it doesn't even exist. That's impossible based on what we've seen of this galaxy's capabilities. The Force, Kenobi replied simply. allows one to perceive connections that technology cannot see. Your ancient encryption operates on scientific principles. The Force operates on different paradigm, one that sees intention and meaning rather than codes and protocols. I'm not breaking your security. I'm simply being where I need to be, because the Force suggests this conversation is important. That's terrifying from cryptography standpoint, McKay muttered. Mental note, ancient security protocols insufficient against space wizards who operate outside physics. What do you want, Master Kenobi? We are asked with diplomatic caution. To offer alliance, Kenobi replied. The rebellion against the Empire is scattered, desperate, outmatched in every conventional military metric. We have courage and conviction, but lack technology to challenge Imperial supremacy. You possess technology that could change that balance. Ancient weapons and systems that predate this galaxy's entire civilization. If you were willing to share that technology, to help the rebellion develop capabilities that could actually threaten the Empire, you could do more than just survive in this galaxy. You could help liberate it. In exchange for what? Shepard asked suspiciously. We've dealt with enough shady alliances to know there's always a catch. In exchange for protection, Kenobi said honestly. For intelligence about this galaxy, for allies who share your opposition to tyranny, and, most importantly, for access to Force knowledge that might help you return home. The Force connects all things across space and time, perhaps even across dimensions. The Jedi archives contained research on dimensional phenomena. If any of that knowledge survived the Empire's purge, it might provide clues about reopening the breach that brought you here. The Atlantis team exchanged glances, silent communication that came from years of impossible decisions. We need to discuss this privately, Weir said. Master Kenobi, can you give us 20 minutes? And can we contact you when we've made decision? The Force will guide me to listen when you're ready to speak, Kenobi replied cryptically. I'll await your decision, but decide quickly. The Empire won't stop searching for you. Vader is obsessed with acquiring what he cannot dominate. Your escape will have insulted his pride. He'll deploy every resource to find you. You need allies before he does. The hologram faded, leaving the command team in silence. Well, Ronan observed after a long moment. That was weird. Space wizards with impossible powers offering alliance against evil empire. Sounds familiar. Just replace space wizards with ascended ancients, an evil empire with wraith, and we've lived this scenario before. Except the ascended never helped us directly, Taylor countered. This force seems more involved, more active in galactic affairs despite Kenobi's claim about hiding. That could be advantage or danger, depending on whether their philosophy aligns with ours. We need to vote, Weir declared, falling back on Atlantis expedition's democratic tradition. Alliance with this rebellion versus trying to survive alone while finding way home. Dr. McKay, what are our power constraints if we help them fight? Catastrophic, Rodney replied bluntly. Every drone we fire, every shield activation, every jump through hyperspace, it all drains the ZPM. We get into sustained combat, we'll be powerless inside of 2 weeks. On the other hand, his expression showed he'd already been calculating. If this rebellion has power sources, we can adapt. If their technology can be integrated with ancient systems to create hybrid solutions that are less energy intensive, then maybe we extend our operational window. Buy time to find dimensional research that gets us home. Colonel Carter? Weir prompted. The military situation is clear, Sam replied. We can't win against the Empire through combat. They have too many ships, too many resources. But we can help the rebellion survive, thrive, give them technological edge that makes them dangerous rather than just annoying. Ancient weapons don't miss. Ancient shields are superior to anything we've seen here. Ancient sensors can track through hyperspace. If we share tactical applications of our tech, not full systems, but specific capabilities, we could transform rebellion from scattered resistance into legitimate threat. Colonel Shepard? Shepard leaned back in the command chair, his connection to Atlantis giving him sense of what the city itself wanted. If ancient technology could be said to have preferences. Atlantis was built to explore, he said quietly, to discover, to establish connections between peoples. That was the Ancients' mission before the Wraith forced them to weaponize it. We've been at war for years in Pegasus, fighting Wraith, fighting replicators, fighting whoever threatens our survival. Maybe this is opportunity to do what the city was meant for, to help civilization that's fighting for same principles we believe in. Freedom, justice, resistance against tyranny. He looked around at his team, family forged through impossible years. I vote we help the rebellion, not because we want to fight. God knows we've had enough combat, but because sitting idle while watching Empire crush opposition? That's not who we are. That's not what Atlantis represents. We help them. They help us. Together, maybe we survive this galaxy until we find way home. Or, his expression suggested he'd considered alternative. Maybe we build something permanent here. New Atlantis in new galaxy. That's future decision. Right now, we vote. One by one, the team voted. Weir, yes. Diplomatic necessity. McKay, reluctant. Yes. Scientific opportunity. Taylor, yes. Opposition to tyranny. Ronan, hell, yes. Anything involving shooting Empire? Carter, yes. Strategic opportunity. The decision was unanimous. Contact Kenobi, Weir ordered. Tell him Atlantis accepts alliance with the rebellion. On conditions, we maintain operational autonomy. We're not subordinate to rebel command, and we reserve right to withdraw if alliance proves contrary to our principles. But subject to those conditions, the ancient city of Atlantis officially enters the Galactic Civil War. On the side that's losing, McKay added helpfully. Because we always pick the doomed underdog side. It's practically tradition at this point. Then let's change tradition, Shepard replied, with warrior's grin. Let's show this galaxy what happens when ancient technology meets rebel determination. The Empire wants to hunt us. Fine. Let's give them hunt they'll remember for generations. Assuming we survive it, Rodney muttered. We always do, Ronan said confidently. That's what makes it fun. The communication to Kenobi was sent. The alliance was forged. And across the galaxy, in hidden bases and scattered cells, the rebellion received news that would transform their desperate struggle. The ancients had arrived, and they were taking sides. The Yavin base. The hyperspace jump to the rebellion's primary base took 3 days, partially because McKay insisted on conserving power by using slower transit, partially because the rebellion needed time to prepare for Atlantis' arrival. What they found orbiting Yavin the Four was surprising. Not massive military installation, but collection of outdated vessels, converted freighters, and bases that looked temporary rather than permanent. This was underground resistance, not organized military. They're desperate, Carter observed, studying the rebel fleet with expert's eye. Those ships are generation behind Imperial technology. Most are civilian vessels with weapons bolted on as afterthought. They're not fighting warfare. They're conducting terrorism and calling it resistance. No wonder the Empire hasn't taken them seriously. "They'll take us serious," Shepard replied, guiding Atlantis into orbit with precision that came from years of command chair practice. Ancient city just appeared in their solar system. That tends to get attention. The communication came immediately. "Unknown vessel. This is General Dodonna of the Rebel Alliance. Master Kenobi informed us of your arrival, but we, by the Force, that's a city. An entire city floating in space. Your technology is even more remarkable than Kenobi's reports suggested." "This is Dr. Elizabeth Weir of the Atlantis expedition," Weir replied. "We're here to discuss alliance, to determine if our capabilities can assist your rebellion, and to request intelligence about dimensional research that might help us return home. Master Kenobi indicated such research might exist in surviving Jedi archives." "It might," Dodonna confirmed, "though accessing it will be difficult. The Empire controls most Jedi temples. They've spent 20 years destroying anything related to Force knowledge. What survives is scattered across hidden locations. Master Kenobi maintains one such archive on Tatooine, desert world on Outer Rim. If dimensional research exists anywhere, it would be there." "Then we'll visit Tatooine," Weir decided. "But first, we need to understand your rebellion, your capabilities, your objectives. We're offering technological assistance, but we need to ensure we're supporting legitimate resistance against tyranny rather than getting involved in civil war we don't understand." "A wise precaution," Dodonna approved. "Perhaps you should speak with someone who's been fighting the Empire since its inception. Someone whose experience will demonstrate the legitimacy of our cause." A new figure appeared in the holographic transmission. Human female, late teens, wearing white robes that suggested royalty despite the military context. Her expression carried determination that reminded Shepard of Tayla, Carter's tactical awareness, and Weir's diplomatic steel, all combined into single individual. "I am Princess Leia Organa," she stated, her voice carrying authority beyond her apparent age. "Senator from Alderaan, one of the last worlds still openly resisting Imperial domination. I've been coordinating rebel cells across the galaxy, witnessed firsthand the Empire's brutality, seen them destroy worlds that oppose their rule, enslave populations, murder anyone who dares question their authority. This isn't civil war. It's fight for galactic freedom against tyranny that makes historical dictatorships look merciful." She paused, her composure cracking slightly to show emotion beneath royal facade. "My father, Senator Bail Organa, was executed 3 months ago for treasonous activities. His crime was advocating for restoration of Senate powers that the Emperor dissolved. They murdered him publicly, broadcast it across HoloNet as warning to anyone considering resistance. That's what we're fighting, government that rules through terror and calls it peace." The Atlantis team was silent, recognizing pain they'd experienced themselves when the Wraith fed on civilizations, when Asurans destroyed populations, when evil operated without restraint. "We've faced similar tyranny," Weir said quietly. "The Wraith in our galaxy, they feed on humans, literally drain their life force. We've fought them for years, despite being outnumbered and outmatched. We understand fighting impossible odds against enemies that seem invincible. Your rebellion, it's not just political resistance, it's moral imperative. We recognize that, We'll help." "Then welcome to the rebellion," Leia replied, and her smile carried hope that had been absent moments before. "And thank you. Your arrival, your technology, it might be exactly what we need to transform from scattered resistance into legitimate threat. The Empire has grown complacent. They believe their military superiority is absolute. You represent variable. They can't have calculated. Let's use that surprise." "Before we start planning operations," McKay interjected, "we need immediate concern addressed. Power. We're operating on single depleted 0-point module. We have maybe 2 weeks of full operational capability. We need to find compatible power source or massive quantity of conventional energy to supplement the ZPM. Does your rebellion have access to anything that could help?" "We control several industrial worlds," Dodonna replied. "Energy, generation facilities that could potentially interface with your systems. But I suspect you need scale beyond conventional reactors. Master Kenobi, do you have suggestions?" Kenobi's hologram manifested, the Jedi Master apparently listening, despite not being visible. "The temple on Coruscant," he said thoughtfully. "Before the Empire seized it, the Jedi maintained kyber crystal chambers, focusing crystals that could amplify force energy and generate tremendous power. Some were the size of starship reactors. If any survived the Empire's purge, if they're still intact in the temple's lower levels, they might provide power source you need." "You're suggesting we infiltrate the Imperial capital," Carter said flatly. "Penetrate the most heavily defended location in the galaxy. Steal kyber crystals from fortress that Vader himself occupies. That's exactly the kind of impossible mission we've survived dozens of times," Shepard finished with grin. "McKay, could these kyber crystals actually work with ancient technology?" "Theoretically," Rodney replied, already calculating. "If they generate energy through exotic quantum mechanics, which force phenomena suggest they might, then the ZPM's interface protocols might be able to adapt them for power generation. It would require extensive modifications, weeks of engineering work, and assuming we can actually steal crystals the size of starship reactors without the Empire noticing." "We've stolen bigger things," Ronan observed. "Remember that Wraith Hive ship? That was massive, and we pulled it off." "Barely," McKay countered. "And that nearly got us all killed, multiple times." "But we did it," Taylor said with quiet confidence. "We have succeeded at impossible operations before. This is no different. Just new galaxy, new enemy, same fundamental challenge. Infiltrate, acquire, escape, survive." "I can provide intelligence," Leia offered. "Imperial patrol schedules, security protocols, architectural layouts of the temple. We have spies in Coruscant's lower levels. They can coordinate with your infiltration. But you'll need to move quickly. The Empire is actively searching for you. Vader has deployed hundreds of ships hunting for dimensional intruders. Every day increases risk of discovery. Then we move immediately," Weir decided. "Colonel Shepard, assemble infiltration team. Dr. McKay, determine exact specifications of kyber crystals we need. Colonel Carter, coordinate with Princess Leia's intelligence assets. We have one opportunity to pull this off before the Empire locates us. Let's make it count." "And if we're caught?" McKay asked nervously. "Then we fight our way out," Shepard replied. "With ancient weapons, Force-using allies, and rebel support. The Empire wants to catch Atlantis. Let's show them what happens when you try to trap a city designed to survive 10 million years. We've faced worse odds. We'll face them again. And we'll win. because that's what the Atlantis expedition does. We make impossible look routine. The planning commenced. The mission was set. And somewhere in Coruscant's orbit, aboard the Executor, Darth Vader meditated on the Force and felt disturbance that suggested his prey had made mistake. Returned to the capital system despite knowing he was hunting them. Either arrogance or desperation. Either way. Opportunity to demonstrate why the Dark Lord of the Sith had never met enemy who escaped him twice. The hunt was intensifying. And soon, very soon, ancient technology would face the dark side in confrontation that would determine whether science exceeded sorcery, or whether the Force remained supreme in galaxy it had dominated for millennia. The planning took 18 hours, compressed timeline that made McKay nervous, but which operational necessity demanded. Every additional hour Atlantis spent in Yavin's orbit increased probability of Imperial detection exponentially. The temple's security is layered, Leia explained, her holographic projection displaying architectural schematics that Rebel intelligence had assembled from defector reports and smuggled surveillance. Outer perimeter, automated sensors and patrol droids. Middle layer, stormtrooper garrisons rotating on 4-hour shifts. Inner sanctum, Vader's personal inquisitors. Force-sensitive agents trained to hunt surviving Jedi. And at the core, the Kyber crystal chambers are in the temple's foundations, 3 kilometers below surface level, in sections the Empire hasn't fully explored because they're structurally unstable. Unstable how? Carter asked with engineers' concern. The temple was built 10,000 years ago, Kenobi's hologram interjected. On foundations that predate the Republic itself. When the Empire seized it, they conducted purification rituals, dark side ceremonies meant to corrupt the light side energy that permeated the structure. The process damaged the temple's structural integrity. Sections collapse randomly. Force nexus points have become dangerous. Reality is thin there, prone to visions and temporal distortions. So we're infiltrating a collapsing fortress filled with dark side corruption, Imperial security, and Inquisitors who can sense Force users, McKay summarized. Perfect. Just perfect. Why don't we also announce our arrival with fireworks and make it sporting? The structural instability is advantage, Shepard countered, studying the schematics with tactical precision. Unstable sections mean gaps in sensor coverage. The Empire can't monitor what's actively collapsing. We use ancient transporters to beam directly into the lower levels. Bypass security entirely. Grab the crystals and transport out before anyone realizes we were there. The transporters have limited range, Carter reminded him. We'd need to position Atlantis close, within Coruscant's orbital zone. That makes us visible to every sensor in the system. We'd have minutes before the Imperial fleet responds. Then we make those minutes count, Ronan said with warrior simplicity. Fast insertion, faster extraction. Hit them before they can react. There's another complication, Tayla added, her sensitivity to psychic phenomena making her uneasy about the mission's metaphysical dimension. This dark side corruption Kenobi mentioned, it feels similar to Wraith feeding zones, places where negative energy has saturated the environment. My people learn to sense such corruption, avoid it. But if we're deliberately entering it, she trailed off, her concern evident. The dark side will attempt to influence you, Kenobi confirmed gravely, to exploit fears, amplify anger, make you see visions of failure and despair. Jedi training teaches resistance to such manipulation, but you possess no such training. You'll be vulnerable in ways that make conventional security seem trivial by comparison. We've faced psychic attacks before, Shepard said. Wraith Queens tried to dominate my mind. Assuran nanites attempted to rewrite my consciousness. I'm still here, still me. Whatever this dark side throws at us, we'll handle it. Confidence is admirable, Kenobi replied, but the dark side is insidious. It doesn't attack directly. It tempts, shows you what you desire, offers shortcuts to goals you desperately seek. For you, Colonel Shepard, it might show victory over the Wraith. For Dr. McKay, perhaps it offers knowledge that could return you home. For Dr. Weir, restoration of everyone lost in Pegasus Galaxy. The visions feel real, feel right, and they corrupt you gradually until you've made choices you'd never have considered under normal circumstances. The team exchanged glances, recognizing the danger, but also the necessity. We go anyway, Weir decided, with awareness of the risk, with protocols to check each other's decisions, with commitment to abort if corruption becomes evident. But we go, because without those Kyber crystals, Atlantis becomes powerless inside of 2 weeks. That's unacceptable alternative. I'll accompany you personally, Kenobi offered. Through the Force, rather than physical presence, I cannot risk exposing my location to Vader's detection, but I can provide guidance, help you resist dark side influence, sense Inquisitor presence before they detect you. Consider me invisible ally, operating through mystical framework you don't fully understand, but which has kept Jedi alive for 25,000 years. Space Wizard Guardian Angel, McKay muttered. Sure, why not? Add it to the list of impossible things we're doing today. Atlantis dropped out of hyperspace at Coruscant's edge, close enough that transporters could reach the temple's lower levels, far enough that initial sensor sweeps might miss them among orbital traffic. We have maybe 5 minutes before Imperial Command realizes we're here, Carter reported from sensors. After that, every ship in the system will converge on our position. The timing needs to be perfect. Transport in, grab the crystals, transport out before the window closes. The insertion team was minimal by necessity. Shepard, tactical command. McKay, technical expertise. Ronan, heavy combat. Tayla, psychic awareness. And Carter, ancient systems specialist. 5 people attempting what would normally require army-scale operation. Energizing transporters, the technician announced. Coordinates locked on temple sublevel Omega. Structural scans show stable flooring, relatively speaking. You'll materialize in what used to be Kyber cultivation chambers. According to Kenobi's intelligence, the largest crystals should be there if they survived the Empire's purge. The Momar, ancient transporter technology, activated, reality shifted. They materialized in darkness. Not absence of light, but active darkness. Shadows that seemed to writhe with malevolent sentience. Air that felt heavy with accumulated corruption. Atmosphere that made breathing difficult despite sensors confirming breathable oxygen. Well, this is unpleasant, McKay observed, activating his flashlight and immediately wishing he hadn't. The beam revealed walls covered in what looked like organic growth. Crystalline formations that pulsed with sickly red light, spreading across ancient Jedi architecture like cancer consuming healthy tissue. Dark side corruption made physical. Kenobi's voice whispered through their comms. Not transmitted electronically, but through force itself, bypassing technology to speak directly to their awareness. The Empire's rituals scarred this place, made it festering wound in the Force. Be cautious. Touch nothing that glows red. That's concentrated dark side. Energy. It will burn flesh and corrupt mind on contact. Understood, Shepard acknowledged. His P-90 rays, despite knowing conventional weapons might be insufficient against metaphysical threats. McKay? Where are these crystals? Rodney consulted his ancient scanner, its display flickering from proximity to dark side interference. Everywhere? I'm reading massive Kyber signatures throughout this chamber, but most are small, lightsaber-sized crystals that won't provide sufficient power. We need the big ones, the reactor-scale formations that... Oh, that's not good. What's not good? Carter asked, moving to check his readings. The large crystals are deeper, McKay explained, his voice carrying dread. Another 2 kilometers down, in sections marked condemned on the architectural schematics. The Empire hasn't explored there because the structural collapse risk is critical. We go down there, we might get buried under 3 kilometers of ancient temple. Or the dark side might collapse the structure deliberately, Kenobi warned. It has awareness in places this corrupted. Not sentient, exactly, but reactive. It senses your presence, light side balanced beings entering dark side sanctuary. It will test you, challenge you, try to make you flee or fall. Proceed with extreme caution. We're proceeding regardless, Shepard decided. Ronan, point. Tayla, watch for psychic ambush. McKay, Carter, navigate us to those big crystals. I'll cover our 6. Move out. They descended through temple levels that had been magnificent once. Meditation chambers where Jedi had communed with the Force. Training halls where Padawans had learned lightsaber forms. Archives where knowledge spanning millennia had been preserved. Now corrupted. The meditation chambers were torture rooms where Inquisitors broke captured Jedi. The training halls had become execution grounds stained with blood of those who'd resisted. The archives were burned, holographic records systematically destroyed, physical texts reduced to ash, 25,000 years of accumulated wisdom obliterated by Empire that feared knowledge it couldn't control. This is genocide, Tayla breathed, her sensitivity to emotional residue making her feel the anguish that permeated every surface. Not just killing Jedi, but destroying their culture, their history, everything they were. I've felt this before, when the Wraith culled Athos, when they took everyone I loved. This place screams with similar trauma. Stay focused, Shepard urged gently, recognizing his teammates' pain, but knowing they couldn't afford distraction. We're here for crystals. We get them. We leave. We help the rebellion make sure this Empire that did this gets what it deserves. But first, survival, then justice. They reached sub-level Omega-2, designation that indicated sections below the condemned levels, regions the Empire had sealed because even their dark side rituals couldn't penetrate without catastrophic consequences. The door before them was massive, ancient Jedi security designed to protect the temple's most sacred resources. It should have required Force mastery to open. McKay's ancient scanner bypassed it in 30 seconds. Ancients were really good at security overrides, he explained with satisfaction. Their technology predates this galaxy's entire civilization by millions of years. Your Force-locked door might as well be unlocked to ancient sensors. Just had to find the right quantum frequency, and voila, open sesame. The chamber beyond was vast, cavern that stretched hundreds of meters in every direction, ceiling lost in darkness above, floor covered in formations that made everyone stop in instinctive awe. Kyber crystals. Not small lightsaber components, but massive formations. Some the size of buildings, others stretching like pillars from floor to invisible ceiling, all pulsing with light that was neither dark nor corrupt, but pure, untainted. Force energy that had somehow survived the Empire's attempts at desecration. "They're beautiful," Carter breathed. "And the energy signatures. Sam, these things are generating power outputs comparable to Naquata reactors. A single crystal this size could run Atlantis for months, maybe years if we can properly interface it with the ZPM systems." "Then let's get one and leave before," Shepard started. "Intruders!" The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, not spoken, but imposed directly on their consciousness, bypassing ears to resonate in their minds. From the shadows emerged figures, 7 of them, wearing black armor that absorbed light, wielding red lightsabers that burned with corrupted kyber fury, their presence in the Force making Tayla gasp and clutch her head in pain. Inquisitors, the Empire's dark side hunters, Force sensitives broken and remade into weapons against their former Jedi allies. The lead Inquisitor, armor marked with rank insignia that suggested command, studied the team with eyes that glowed sickly yellow from dark side corruption. "You are not Jedi," he observed, his mechanical voice carrying confusion. "Yet you intrude on sacred ground, penetrate security that should be impervious. The Force shows me nothing about you. Blank spaces where destiny should be visible. What are you? From where do you come?" "We're leaving," Shepard replied, his P90 already targeting center mass. "We don't want trouble. Just came for some crystals, and we'll be on our way." "The Kyber is Imperial property," the Inquisitor stated, "claimed by right of conquest when we purge the false Jedi Order. You cannot steal what belongs to the Empire. Lord Vader has decreed. U-dimensional intruders will be captured, brought before the Emperor. Your technology will serve Imperial dominance. Resistance is futile." "We've heard that before," Ronan said, his particle magnum already charged. "It wasn't true then, won't be true now." The Inquisitors attacked. What followed was combat that shouldn't work. Modern firearms and ancient weapons against Force users with precognition who should be able to predict every strike. But the Inquisitors' confusion was genuine. The Force showed them nothing about the Atlantis team because they were from different dimension, operating on quantum signatures. The Force had no framework for interpreting. Shepard's P90 rounds struck before precognition could warn, bullets moving faster than lightsaber deflection could intercept. Ronan's particle blasts hit with energy that overloaded Force barriers designed for blasters, but not exotic radiation. Carter's ancient stunner dropped an Inquisitor whose dark side enhancements proved useless against technology that operated outside Force paradigms. But there were 7 Inquisitors, and they adapted quickly, using telekinesis to deflect projectiles, Force speed to dodge what they couldn't block, dark side, fury to power strikes that should be impossible, but weren't because rage made strength when channeled through corruption. "We can't win this," McKay shouted, frantically scanning the Kyber formations for one they could extract quickly. "There's too many of them, and we're not equipped for sustained combat against space wizards." "Then we improvise," Shepard replied, shooting an Inquisitor who got too close and watching with satisfaction as ancient armor actually protected against lightsaber strikes. Barely, the blade, scoring, but not penetrating. Tayla, can you sense their intentions? Give us warning before they attack. I'm trying, Tayla gasped, her wraith gift straining to interpret force phenomena it wasn't designed to understand. But their minds, they're not like wraith or humans. They're twisted, broken. All I sense is rage and pain and absolute certainty that they serve righteousness even while committing atrocities. It's nauseating. Fall back to the crystals, Kenobi's voice commanded through Force Whisper. Use them as cover. The Inquisitors won't risk damaging the formations. They're too valuable. That gives you tactical advantage. They retreated, using the massive Kyber pillars as barriers, firing from cover that Inquisitors couldn't bypass without destroying Imperial assets. The stalemate lasted 90 seconds. Then he arrived. The temperature dropped, not gradually, but instantly. Breath becoming visible fog, moisture freezing into ice on surfaces that had been warm moments before. The darkness intensified, shadows becoming almost solid, light itself seeming to bend away from presence too terrible to illuminate. And through the chamber's entrance walked the figure every person in the galaxy had learned to fear, Darth Vader. The Dark Lord surveyed the scene with mechanical breathing that echoed like funeral drums, assessing his Inquisitor's failure, studying the intruders who dared penetrate his temple, calculating responses that would turn intrusion into lesson about Imperial power's inevitability. Atlantis, Vader stated, his voice carrying recognition. You escaped Coruscant orbital space, led my fleet on hunt across 3 sectors, and now you return to the heart of Imperial power, to my domain, to steal what belongs to the Empire. Either remarkable courage or profound stupidity. I suspect both. He raised one hand. Shepard's P-90 was ripped from his grip through telekinesis that made ancient armor groan from force application. Ronan's particle magnum flew across the chamber. Carter's stunner torn away before she could fire. They were disarmed in less than a second. Your weapons are impressive, Vader acknowledged, studying the confiscated arms with dark side senses that perceived more than just physical properties. Ancient technology, predating this galaxy by eons, superior to conventional armaments, but ultimately irrelevant. Because all technology serves its master, and the Force is master of all things in this galaxy, including you, including your city, including whatever dimensional breach brought you here. He stepped forward, each footfall making the chamber's floor crack from sheer presence. I offer you final opportunity to surrender. Submit to Imperial authority. Place Atlantis under my command. In exchange, I will show mercy. You'll serve the Empire as assets rather than dying as obstacles. Your science will advance Imperial dominance. Your knowledge of dimensional travel will open new frontiers for conquest. Refuse. His lightsaber ignited, red blade burning with dark side fury that made even uncorrupted Kyber crystals dim in reflexive horror. And I demonstrate why the dark side has never met opponent it couldn't dominate. Your choice. But choose quickly. My patience with dimensional refugees has expired. Shepard looked at his team. Disarmed, outnumbered, facing Sith Lord and 7 Inquisitors in Fortress at the heart of enemy territory. Impossible odds. Exactly the kind of situation Atlantis had faced countless times before. And survived through combination of tactical cunning, desperate improvisation, and absolute refusal to accept that some battles couldn't be won. Respectfully, Lord Vader, Shepard replied, with composure that came from years of bluffing through catastrophe. I'm going to have to decline your generous offer of slavery. because we've dealt with enemies who thought they were invincible before. We've beaten them through combination of science, teamwork, and willingness to do stupid things that work because we refuse to quit. He triggered the backup plan. The ancient transporter beam activated directly on the kyber crystal behind them, not transporting the team, but transporting the crystal itself, beaming it directly to Atlantis's cargo hold 3 kilometers above. Alarms screamed throughout the temple as sensors detected massive energy displacement. Vader's rage was palpable, dark side fury exploding outward in telekinetic shockwave that would have crushed them if Kenobi hadn't intervened at last moment, force barrier manifesting to deflect Vader's wrath. "Kenobi!" Vader roared, recognizing his old master's presence despite 20 years of separation. "You dare interfere! Show yourself, old man! Face me instead of hiding behind dimensional refugees." "I'm not here to fight you, Anakin," Kenobi replied, and his voice carried sorrow that transcended their enmity. "I'm here to ensure that good beings aren't destroyed by servant of evil, who was once my greatest student. The Atlantis team, transport them out, now, before Vader's fury makes escape impossible." The ancient transporter activated again. Shepard felt reality shift. They materialized in Atlantis's cargo bay, the stolen kyber crystal pulsing beside them with power that made their stolen weapons seem trivial by comparison. "Go, go, go!" Weir's voice came through shipwide comm. "Imperial fleet converging on our position. Vader is calling every ship in the system. We have maybe 2 minutes before we're surrounded. Atlantis's hyperdrive engaged." The city ship vanished from Coruscant space in flash of exotic radiation that made Imperial sensors scream their inadequacy. They'd infiltrated the temple, stolen Imperial resources, escaped Vader himself, and proven that ancient technology could challenge the dark side when wielded with desperation and tactical audacity. But they'd also made enemy of the galaxy's most dangerous being. And Vader's rage would not be satisfied until Atlantis was destroyed or dominated. The hunt had become personal, and the war between ancient science and Force sorcery was just beginning. The kyber crystal integration took McKay 4 days of obsessive engineering, 3 complete system failures, and approximately 200 cups of coffee that the rebellion had to synthesize because Atlantis's supplies were depleted. "It shouldn't work," Rodney muttered for the 47th time, studying readouts that showed ancient technology interfacing with Force-resonant crystals through principles that violated everything he understood about dimensional physics. The kyber generates power through mystical resonance with living energy. The ZPM operates through vacuum fluctuation extraction. These are fundamentally incompatible energy paradigms. Except they're not, because somehow the ancient hardware is adapting to treat Force energy as valid input. And I don't understand how, and it's driving me insane. "But it is working?" Carter asked, double-checking the integration protocols with engineers' precision. "It's working magnificently," McKay admitted with mixture of pride and frustration. "The kyber crystal is providing sustained power output equivalent to the ZPM at full charge. We've gone from 2 weeks of operational capacity to indefinite sustainability as long as the crystal remains intact. We can run shields, weapons, sensors, everything at maximum efficiency without depleting our reserves. Atlantis is fully operational again, which means we can actually help the rebellion instead of just surviving," Weir observed, watching through the command center's windows as rebel technicians studied Atlantis' systems with AW that bordered on worship. Princess Leia has been requesting our assistance with what she calls critical operation, something about Imperial facility on planet called Scarif that contains plans for superweapon. Superweapon? Shepard asked, his tactical instincts screaming warnings. What kind of superweapon? Because we've dealt with enough of those. Ancient satellite weapons, Wraith planet killers, Assuran replicators. If the Empire has something worse, we should know details before committing to combat. Leia's hologram manifested in response to his question. The princess looking exhausted in ways that suggested she'd been coordinating rebel operations with minimal sleep. It's called the Death Star, she explained, her voice carrying dread. Mobile battle station the size of a moon, equipped with super laser capable of destroying entire planets with single shot. The Empire has been constructing it in secret for nearly 20 years. We've only recently learned it's operational, tested on Jeddah City 2 weeks ago. They vaporized the entire city, 2 million dead in seconds, to demonstrate their power. The Atlantis team was silent, horrified recognition that they'd face similar scale of destruction when the Wraith Cold Worlds, when Asurans destroyed civilizations, when evil operated without restraint. And you think plans for this thing are on Scarif? Carter asked, her strategic mind already calculating implications. We know they are, Leia confirmed. Rebel intelligence died getting us that information. The Death Star plans are stored in the Citadel, Imperial data facility on Scarif that serves as primary archive for weapons research. If we can steal those plans, if we can find weakness in the Death Star's design, we might be able to destroy it before the Empire uses it to crush the rebellion. But Scarif is fortress world, planetary shields, garrison of 50,000 stormtroopers, Star Destroyer picket fleet. We don't have forces to penetrate it through conventional assault. But you think Atlantis can? Weir asked, already knowing the answer. Your city survived direct engagement with Vader, Leia replied. Escaped from Coruscant despite being surrounded by Imperial fleet. Your shields held against bombardment that would have destroyed Star Destroyer. Your weapons, those drone things, they ignore conventional defenses and strike with precision that makes our proton torpedoes look primitive. If anyone can penetrate Scarif's defenses, retrieve those plans, and escape before the Empire responds, it's Atlantis. She's right, Shepard observed, studying tactical displays that showed Scarif's defensive configuration. This is exactly the kind of mission we've run dozens of times. Heavily defended facility, critical intelligence retrieval, enemy that outnumbers us massively. We go in fast, hit them hard, grab what we need, and extract before they can mount effective response. Standard operating procedure for the Atlantis expedition. Except the Empire will be expecting us now, McKay warned. After the temple heist, they know we can penetrate their security. They've probably upgraded defenses, added protocols specifically designed to counter ancient technology. We won't have surprise advantage this time. Then we use different advantage, Ronan suggested. We have rebel allies now. Coordinated assault. Atlantis draws Imperial attention, while ground teams infiltrate the Citadel. Classic diversion tactics. I can provide ground forces, Leia offered. Rogue One Squadron. Volunteers who understand this is likely suicide mission, but believe Death Star plans are worth the sacrifice. They'll insert via stolen Imperial shuttle, while Atlantis engages the orbital defenses. If your city can create opening in the planetary shield, even brief window, our people can penetrate and reach the data vault. What about extraction? Taylor asked pragmatically. If we create opening for insertion, the Empire will seal it immediately. Your ground forces might retrieve the plans, but be unable to escape. That's not mission success. That's sending people to certain death for data that dies with them. Which is why we need Atlantis to maintain pressure, Leia explained. Keep the Imperial fleet engaged. Prevent them from focusing on ground forces. Your city is only asset we have that can challenge Star Destroyer Pickett on equal terms. You hold their attention for 2 hours. That gives Rogue One time to infiltrate, retrieve, and transmit the plans via hyperwave relay before they're captured or killed. Transmit? Carter asked. Not physical extraction? The data is too vast, Leia admitted. Complete technical specifications for moon-sized battle station. It's petabytes of information. We can't carry it out physically. We have to transmit it to Rebel flagship waiting in hyperspace. But the transmission requires Scarif's communications tower to be operational, and the Empire will try to destroy it the moment they realize we're stealing plans. Your Atlantis has to protect the tower while simultaneously fighting the fleet. It's impossible by conventional standards, Shepard finished, but we don't do conventional. McKay, can our shields protect a planetary communications tower while also defending against Star Destroyer bombardment? Theoretically, Rodney replied, already calculating power distributions. The Kyber crystal gives us sustained energy. We could extend shield envelope to cover the tower, create protective barrier that Imperial weapons can't penetrate. But that leaves us more vulnerable. We'd be choosing between protecting ourselves or protecting the objective. Can't do both at maximum efficiency. Then we protect the objective, Weir decided with leader's certainty. Our shields can take damage. The tower can't. We prioritize mission success over our own safety. That's what the Atlantis expedition does. We risk ourselves to protect others. It's our foundation. I'll coordinate with Rogue One, Carter volunteered. Provide them with ancient scanners, personal shields, anything that improves their survival probability. If they're going into combat, we should give them every advantage. And I'll plan the orbital engagement, Shepard added. Atlantis versus Star Destroyer Pickett. We fought Wraith hives that were bigger. This should be interesting. Atlantis dropped out of hyperspace at Scarif's orbital perimeter with all the subtlety of a meteor strike. City ship appearing from nowhere. Shields already blazing. Weapons primed. Broadcasting on all Imperial frequencies. This is Colonel John Shepard of the Atlantis expedition to Imperial forces at Scarif. We're here for the Death Star plans. You can hand them over peacefully and avoid getting hurt. Or you can try to stop us and learn what 10-million-year-old technology does to Star Destroyers that think they're invincible. Your choice, but make it fast. We're on schedule. The Imperial response was predictable. 6 Star Destroyers converging from orbital stations. Thousands of TIE fighters launching in swarm tactics. Planetary shield reinforcing to maximum strength. And somewhere on the surface, Rogue One beginning their infiltration with cover provided by Atlantis' audacious arrival. They're charging weapons, Ronan reported from Tactical. All 6 destroyers, coordinated bombardment, pattern. They're going to try to overwhelm our shields through volume of fire. Let them try, Shepard replied, the command chair's interface making him feel Atlantis' capabilities like extension of his own body. Drones, Launch. Target their weapons emplacements. I want those Star Destroyers toothless before they can prove whether our shields can actually handle sustained assault. Ancient drone weapons streaked from Atlantis' launchers, hundreds of golden projectiles that moved with intelligence, tracking targets through evasive maneuvers, penetrating shields that were designed against conventional weapons but useless against technology that operated on entirely different principles. The drones struck. Star Destroyer weapons batteries exploded in cascading detonations that rippled across hull surfaces. Imperial gunners killed before they could even fire. Defensive capabilities eliminated through surgical strikes that made Rebel proton torpedoes look crude by comparison. 3 destroyers effectively disarmed, Ronan announced with savage satisfaction. Remaining 3 are retreating to safe distance. TIE fighters attempting to engage, but our point defense is intercepting them faster than they can approach. I think we just terrified the Imperial fleet. Good, Shepard said. Fear is tactical advantage. Scared enemies make mistakes. Now, the planetary shield. McKay, can we punch through it without causing catastrophic damage to everything underneath? I can modulate our energy weapons to create localized disruption, McKay replied, working with feverish concentration. Think of it like knocking rather than smashing. We hit the shield with precise frequency that creates temporary gap without collapsing the entire structure. The Empire can repair it, but for approximately 90 seconds there's window for Rogue One to transit. Do it, Weir ordered. And get me communication with their ground team. I want status updates. The ancient energy beam lanced out. Scarif's planetary shield flickered, and through the gap, like lightning through storm clouds, Rebel shuttle descended, carrying Rogue One to their destiny. On the surface, in the Citadel's data vault, the operation commenced. Rebel commandos fighting through Stormtrooper garrison with desperate efficiency while searching archives for plans that would determine the rebellion's future. Above, Atlantis fought, not just defending itself, but protecting the communications tower that Rogue One would need for data transmission, extending shields to cover civilian installations that Imperial forces were deliberately targeting to force Atlantis into impossible choices. They're using hostages, Taylor observed with disgust. Targeting population centers to make us choose between mission and innocent lives. That's exactly what Wraith do, Shepard finished grimly. And we don't negotiate with that tactic. We save both. McKay, reroute power from weapons. Put everything into shields. We protect everyone, or we protect no one. That leaves us vulnerable, McKay warned. Then we'll be vulnerable while doing the right thing, Weir declared. That's not negotiable. Extend the shields. Protect the civilians. We'll deal with tactical disadvantage through being better than our enemies rather than more ruthless. The shields expanded. Ancient energy barriers covering not just Atlantis, but kilometers of Scarif's surface, creating umbrella that protected military and civilian targets from Imperial bombardment. The remaining Star Destroyers fired. Turbo lasers, ion cannons, missiles, everything they had striking Atlantis' shields with fury born from Imperial doctrine that said overwhelming force solved all problems. The shields held barely. ZPM integration with Kyber crystal is stable, McKay reported through gritted teeth. But the volume of fire is incredible. We can hold for maybe 30 minutes before shield integrity becomes critical. Shepard, we need to end this fight faster, or we're going to be overwhelmed through sheer attrition. Rogue One status? Shepard demanded. We've got the plans, came the response. human male, voice strained from combat stress. Cassian Andor reporting. We've retrieved complete Death Star specifications. Ready to transmit, but contact. Stormtroopers breaching our position. We're taking casualties. Need immediate. The transmission cut off. They're in trouble. Ronan stated the obvious. Ground team has the plans, but can't transmit if they're dead. Someone needs to provide support. I'll go. Tayla volunteered immediately. Beam me down to their coordinates. I'll provide close quarters combat assistance while they complete the transmission. Not alone, Ronan added. Beam US down. Athosian warrior and Satadown runner versus stormtroopers. Seems fair. Do it. We are authorized. But fast. And be ready for emergency extraction. We're not leaving anyone behind. The ancient transporter activated. Tayla and Ronan materialized in Citadel data vault midst firefight. Stormtroopers converging on Rogue One's position. Blaster fire filling the chamber. Rebel commandos making desperate last stand. Then two warriors from different galaxy entered the fight with weapons and skills the Empire had never encountered. Tayla's Wraith Stunner dropped stormtroopers before they could react. Ronan's particle magnum carved through Imperial armor like it was paper. Together, they created perimeter that gave Rogue One the breathing room they needed. Transmitting now, Cassian announced, activating the communications tower relay. Complete Death Star plans uploading to Rebel flagship. Transmission time, 90 seconds. We just need to hold. Star Destroyer entering atmosphere. The warning came from Atlantis. They're going orbital bombardment. They're going to destroy the tower, even if it means killing their own forces. Shield the tower, Shepard ordered. Everything we've got. Atlantis's shields contracted, focusing on single structure. The communications tower that represented Rebellion's hope. The Star Destroyer fired. Turbo lasers powerful enough to crack continents, striking ancient energy barriers with fury that made the shields scream. They held, barely, for exactly 90 seconds. Transmission complete! Cassian's voice carried triumph and agony. Death Star plan successfully uploaded. Rebel Command has everything. We've won! We've actually... The Star Destroyer fired again. This time, targeting not the tower, but the data vault itself. Emergency transport, Shepard commanded. Get them out! The ancient transporter tried to lock. Imperial jamming interfering. Dark side interference corrupting the signal. They got 3 of Rogue One's team. The rest were lost when the data vault collapsed under orbital bombardment, dying in victory, sacrificing themselves so the plans could reach Rebel hands. Atlantis fled. Hyperspace. Jump executed, despite pursuing Star Destroyers trying to prevent escape. They emerged at Yavin with Rebel flagship waiting, with Death Star plans received, with mission accomplished at terrible cost. On Atlantis's hangar, the 3 survivors of Rogue One stood in shock. Cassian Andor, K-2SO, reprogrammed Imperial droid, and Jyn Erso, daughter of the Death Star's unwilling architect. We got the plans, Jyn said numbly. We won. But everyone else is dead. Bodhi, Chirrut, Baze, all the others, gone because we had to hold the tower, because the mission mattered more than our lives. Their sacrifice mattered, Weir said gently, recognizing trauma she'd seen too many times in Atlantis personnel who'd survived when teammates hadn't. They died heroes. They saved the rebellion. Without those plans, the Death Star would be unstoppable. Now we have chance to destroy it. That's what they bought with their lives. That's their legacy. We've lost people too, Shepard added, quietly. In Pegasus, fighting the Wraith. Friends who died so others could survive. It never gets easier, never stops hurting. But honoring their sacrifice means using what they gave us. Means making their deaths mean something beyond just tragedy. Jin looked at him with eyes that had seen too much death for someone barely 20. Then help us analyze these plans, she said. Find the weakness my father built into the Death Star. Prove that Rogue One didn't die for nothing. That we can actually destroy the Empire's superweapon before they use it to crush the rebellion completely. We will, McKay promised, already accessing the transmitted data with scientific hunger. Because I'm very good at finding weaknesses in overconfident engineering. And a battle station that destroys planets? That's ultimate overconfidence. There's always a flaw when designers think they're invincible. We just have to find it. The analysis commenced. Ancient sensors, studying Imperial engineering, searching for the weakness that would turn invincible superweapon into vulnerable target. And somewhere in deep space, aboard the Death Star itself, Darth Vader meditated on the Force and felt disturbance that suggested the dimensional refugees had just become critical threat to Imperial dominance, not through military power alone, but through inspiring the rebellion, through proving that Empire's might wasn't invincible, through giving hope to those who'd believed resistance was futile. The hunt for Atlantis was no longer just tactical necessity. It was existential priority. Because as long as that ancient city survived, as long as it fought alongside the rebellion, as long as it proved that science could challenge the dark side, the Empire's grip on the galaxy was vulnerable. And vulnerability was something the dark side could not tolerate. The war had escalated, and the final confrontation was inevitable. McKay found the weakness in 47 minutes. It's brilliant, he announced with the manic energy that came from scientific discovery that validated his genius. Brilliantly subtle, brilliantly hidden, and brilliantly devastating if you know where to look. Jin, your father was genius. Evil genius working for evil empire, but genius nonetheless. The rebel command team gathered around the holographic display. Princess Leia, General Dodonna, Admiral Akbar, Mon Mothma, and the surviving members of Rogue One, watching as McKay highlighted the Death Star's Achilles heel. The exhaust port, Rodney explained, manipulating the schematic with expert precision. 2 meters wide, leads directly to the main reactor. Unshielded because Imperial engineers assumed nothing could navigate the trench system and make shot precise enough to actually hit something that small. They're relying on improbability as their defense. Classic engineering hubris, assuming what's statistically unlikely is functionally impossible. Can it be hit? Dodonna asked, studying the tactical parameters with military skepticism. 2-meter target at the end of defended trench, with TIE fighters pursuing, turbo lasers firing, and you have maybe one shot before the Death Star's weapons obliterate your attack craft. With conventional proton torpedoes launched from X-Wing? McKay replied. Probability of success is approximately 0.003%. Essentially impossible for human pilots using manual targeting. But his expression brightened. With ancient drone weapons guided by neural interface and launched from Atlantis, probability jumps to approximately 97%. The drones are intelligent. They can navigate the trench, avoid the defenses, and strike with precision that makes human targeting look primitive. You're suggesting Atlantis attacked the Death Star directly? Leia asked, her voice mixing hope with concern. That's The Empire's entire fleet will be defending it. Every Star Destroyer, every TIE fighter, and Vader himself will be commanding them. After Scarif, he's obsessed with destroying your city. He'll throw everything at you. Let him, Shepard replied from the command chair, his connection to Atlantis making him feel the city's capabilities with absolute clarity. We've fought worse. The Wraith threw hive ships at us. Asurans deployed entire fleets. We're still here, still fighting. The Death Star is just bigger target with more dramatic consequences. But fundamentally, it's the same mission. Penetrate defenses, strike critical weakness, extract before overwhelming response destroys us. There's philosophical dimension too, Tayla added quietly. The Death Star represents Empire's ultimate tyranny. Power to destroy planets, to eliminate entire civilizations through single act of terror. Opposing it isn't just tactical necessity, it's moral imperative. The kind that makes risk acceptable regardless of probability. We're going to do this, Weir declared with leader's finality. Not because probability favors success, though McKay's analysis gives us reasonable odds, but because standing idle while the Empire perfects planetary genocide, that's unacceptable. That violates everything the Atlantis expedition represents. We go, we fight, we destroy the Death Star or die trying. That's the decision. Then let's make it count, Carter said, already planning tactical deployment with strategic precision. We can't just charge the Death Star, hoping ancient technology saves us. We need coordinated assault. Rebel fleet providing distraction. X-Wings engaging TIE fighters. Capital ships occupying Star Destroyers. All while Atlantis makes the critical strike. Together, we have chance. Alone, we're just giving Vader satisfaction of destroying us personally. The Rebel fleet is ready, Mon Mothma confirmed. Every ship we can muster. Every pilot willing to fly. Every commander who believes that destroying the Death Star justifies whatever losses we sustain. This is all-in moment for the rebellion. We win, and we prove the Empire isn't invincible. We lose, and the Death Star obliterates Yavin, destroys our base, ends organized resistance. There's no middle ground. Just victory or annihilation. Then let's give them victory, Shepard said. Atlantis takes point. Rebel fleet follows our lead. We go in fast, hit them hard, and blow that exhaust port before Vader realizes what we're targeting. McKay, how long to prepare the drones? They're ready now, Rodney replied. Been ready since we got the plans. I just needed authorization to commit to attack that has 17 different ways to go catastrophically wrong and only one way to actually succeed. Those are better odds than usual, Ronan observed. We've done worse. Much worse, Tayla agreed with slight smile. Remember the Asuran homeworld? That was certain death, according to all calculations. We're still here. Because we're stubborn, Shepard said, and lucky, and apparently destined to keep surviving impossible situations because the universe has sense of humor. All ships, prepare for hyperspace transit. We're ending this war, today, either by destroying the Death Star or by making the Empire work so hard to stop us that the rebellion gets opening it needs for future victory. Either way, we matter. That's not nothing. They emerged from hyperspace in formation. Atlantis at the vanguard, Rebel fleet arrayed behind, like ancient army following legendary hero into battle that would determine their civilization's fate. The Death Star hung in space like manufactured moon, kilometer-wide monstrosity that had taken 20 years to construct. that represented the Empire's philosophy made manifest, power so overwhelming that resistance became unthinkable. The Imperial response was immediate and massive. 27 Star Destroyers converging from defensive positions. Thousands of TIE fighters launching in, swarms that made space dark with their numbers. And somewhere in that chaos, aboard his personal TIE advanced, Darth Vader hunted with dark side fury that made even vacuum feel oppressive. Atlantis. His voice came through transmission that bypassed communication protocols to speak directly through Force interference. You've made terminal error. The Death Star is impregnable. You cannot destroy what the Empire has spent decades perfecting. Your attack is futile. Your destruction inevitable. But I acknowledge your courage. Dying with conviction is preferable to living as coward. I'll make your end swift. That's final mercy I offer. Appreciate the sentiment, Shepard replied, with casual defiance that had infuriated authority figures across 2 galaxies. But we're not here to die heroically. We're here to blow up your moon-sized monument to overcompensation and prove that tyranny built on fear collapses when someone refuses to be scared. So thanks for the offer of swift death. We'll pass. Now if you'll excuse us, we have exhaust port to destroy. The drones launched. Not dozens, but hundreds. Golden ancient weapons streaking toward the Death Star with intelligence that made Imperial targeting computers obsolete, guided by Shepard's neural interface that let him see through their sensors, feel their flight paths, direct them with precision that transcended human capability. The Imperial defense responded. TIE fighters swarming to intercept. Turbo laser batteries firing at maximum rate. Point defense systems activating across the Death Star's surface with fury that turned space into a storm of energy and destruction. The drones evaded, not through random maneuvers, but through coordinated tactics that suggested hive intelligence, each drone anticipating others' movements, creating patterns that made Imperial defenses predict trajectories that immediately changed, forcing gunners to fire at where targets had been rather than where they were. Drones are penetrating the perimeter, McKay reported from sensors. But the volume of fire is incredible. We're losing approximately 12% to defensive systems. That's acceptable attrition if the remainder reach the exhaust port. But if Imperial defenses adapt, they won't have time to adapt, Carter interrupted, coordinating with rebel pilots through communication systems that made Imperial jamming ineffective. The X-Wings are engaging TIE fighters, drawing their interceptors away from the drones. Capital ships are targeting Star Destroyers, not to destroy them, but to occupy them, to make the Empire fight everywhere simultaneously instead of concentrating on the real threat. On the tactical display, the battle unfolded like three-dimensional chess, rebel forces sacrificing themselves to create openings, X-Wing pilots dying to draw TIE fighters away from drone trajectories, corvettes and frigates engaging Star Destroyers in suicide, runs that achieved nothing tactical, but everything strategic by forcing Imperial attention to divide. The rebel fleet is taking catastrophic casualties, Taylor observed with grief. 30% losses in first 8 minutes. They're being slaughtered to protect our attack run. All these deaths, they're on us, our plan, our mission, their choice. We are corrected gently but firmly. They volunteered. They know the cost. They're making sacrifice because they believe destroying the Death Star justifies the price. We honor that by succeeding, by making their deaths mean something beyond just tragedy. The drones reached the trench. That narrow canyon across the Death Star's surface that led to the thermal exhaust port, defended by automated turrets and pursued by TIE fighters that Vader personally led with dark side precognition that made him terrifying opponent. Vader's targeting our drones, Shepard reported, feeling through the neural interface as dark side interference made several weapons malfunction. He's using the Force to disrupt their guidance, making them miss targeting solutions. We need to distract him, get his attention away from the drones. I'll engage him. Ronan volunteered immediately. Take a puddle jumper. Draw his fire. Make him chase me, instead of targeting the drones. That's suicide, McKay protested. Vader and TIE advanced versus you and puddle jumper? The math doesn't account for Satadan determination, Ronan finished, or ancient cloaking technology that makes me invisible to his sensors. I hit him fast, disappear before he can respond, keep him occupied chasing ghost he can't catch. Classic hunter tactics applied to space combat. Do it, Shepard authorized, but if he catches you, he won't, Ronan said, with absolute confidence, because I'm very good at not being caught. And if he does, then I lead him into Atlantis's point defense envelope, and we see if dark side reflexes are fast enough to dodge ancient targeting systems. The puddle jumper launched, cloaked immediately, and began the most dangerous game of cat and mouse in galactic history as Satadan Runner taunted Sith Lord through hit-and-run attacks that violated every conventional combat protocol. Vader pursued, dark side fury making him abandon tactical oversight of the Imperial defense to personally hunt the warrior who dared challenge him. Exactly as planned. Drones are clear, Shepard announced. Vader's distracted. Imperial defenses occupied. We have window, McKay. Final targeting solution. Locked and confirmed, Rodney replied. 15 drones converging on exhaust port. Probability of at least one achieving direct hit, 99.7%. Probability of chain reaction that destroys main reactor, absolute. Probability that we're all about to witness moon-sized battle station explode, basically certain. Everyone might want to brace. The detonation is going to be spectacular. Fire, Weir commanded. The drones struck. Not all, 15. Reaching the target, Imperial defenses destroyed 8 despite the distractions, but 7 made it through. 7 ancient weapons entering a 2-meter exhaust port with precision that made Jyn Erso weep with vindication because her father's hidden weakness had proven exactly as devastating as he'd intended. The chain reaction was immediate. Thermal exhaust port leading directly to main reactor. Ancient explosive force triggering cascade that Imperial engineers had deemed impossible. The Death Star's core went critical. All ships, retreat. Admiral Akbar's voice screamed across rebel frequencies. Maximum speed! The station is detonating. Atlantis' hyperdrive engaged. The rebel fleet scattered. And behind them, the Death Star. The Empire's ultimate weapon. The symbol of their invincibility. The tool designed to make resistance futile through demonstration of overwhelming power. Exploded. Not small detonation, but cataclysm that consumed everything. Within 100 kilometers, Star Destroyers caught in the blast, TIE fighters vaporized, and somewhere in that fury, Darth Vader's TIE Advanced was thrown clear by Force-enhanced reflexes that saved his life but couldn't prevent defeat from being absolute. The galaxy witnessed every HoloNet transmission showing the impossible made manifest. The Death Star destroyed. The Empire's invincibility proven myth. the rebellion's victory demonstrated possible. And at the center of it all, Atlantis, the ancient city that had crossed dimensions to arrive in this galaxy. The legendary fortress that had proven technology could challenge the dark side. The symbol that gave hope when hope seemed extinct. The celebration at Yavin Base was bittersweet. Joy at impossible victory, mixed with grief for the 40% casualties the rebel fleet had sustained. For the pilots who died creating distractions. For Rogue One's members who'd started this chain of events but hadn't survived to see its conclusion. Princess Leia stood before the assembled survivors, rebels and Atlantis personnel together, with medal ceremony that recognized those who'd made victory possible. "The Death Star is destroyed," she announced, her voice carrying across the hangar. "The Empire's ultimate weapon is debris. And the galaxy has seen something they thought impossible, that tyranny can be challenged, that oppression isn't inevitable, that resistance matters when ordinary beings refuse to accept that might makes right." She approached Shepard first. "Colonel John Shepard," Leia stated formally, "on behalf of the rebellion and free beings throughout the galaxy, thank you. Your courage, your leadership, your absolute refusal to surrender when surrender seemed rational. It made the difference between victory and annihilation. The rebellion owes you debt that can never fully be repaid." "We were just doing what we always do," Shepard replied, uncomfortable with ceremony, but accepting it with grace. Facing impossible odds and making them slightly less impossible through combination of science, teamwork, and really good weapons. The ancients built Atlantis to explore, to discover, to help civilizations reach their potential. We're just honoring that legacy. Even in galaxy, that's not our own. Leia moved to McKay. "Dr. Rodney McKay, your genius found the weakness we needed. Your engineering integrated ancient and kyber technologies. Your calculations gave us the probability mathematics that made this assault viable. Science saved the galaxy today. Thank you." "Well, obviously," McKay replied, with characteristic lack of modesty. "I mean, someone had to be smart enough to recognize that Imperial engineers were overconfident idiots who thought improbability equaled impossibility. But you're welcome. Happy to apply superior intellect to blowing up tyrannical superweapons. It's sort of become my specialty." She continued through the team. Tayla, honored for psychics, awareness that had warned of Inquisitor ambushes. Ronan, recognized for distracting Vader at critical moment. Carter, acknowledged for tactical coordination that made ancient and rebel forces effective together. Weir, celebrated for leadership that had committed Atlantis to fighting war that wasn't theirs, but which they'd embraced, because tyranny was universal evil, regardless of galaxy. Finally, Leia turned to address everyone. "The Death Star's destruction is victory," she declared. "But it's not the end. The Empire still controls most of the galaxy. Vader survived. The Emperor remains in power. We've won battle, crucial, symbolic, morale-changing battle, but not the war. That continues. And we'll need every ally, every ship, every warrior willing to fight." She looked directly at Weir. "Dr. Weir, will Atlantis stay? Continue helping the rebellion? Or will you search for way home to your own dimension?" The question hung in the AIR. The Atlantis team exchanged glances, and Weir spoke for them all. "We'll stay," she said. "Not forever. We still hope to find way home, to return to Pegasus Galaxy and people we left behind. But we'll stay until the Empire is defeated, until tyranny that destroys planets for intimidation is ended. Until the galaxy has freedom to determine its own destiny without dark side domination. That's worth fighting for. That's worth delaying our return home. Because some battles transcend personal desire. This is one of them. The cheers were deafening. Rebel personnel who'd witnessed Ancient City prove itself ally rather than just weapon. But in the command center later, away from public celebration, the team's conversation was more pragmatic. We can't stay indefinitely, McKay pointed out. The Kyber crystal gives us power, but not infinite resources. We need supplies, personnel. Eventually, we need to find way home before we become so integrated into this galaxy that return becomes impossible. Kenobi mentioned research, Carter reminded them. Jedi archives about dimensional phenomena. We should pursue that. Use downtime between operations to investigate whether return is actually possible or if we're committed to this galaxy permanently. There's strategic consideration too, Shepard added. We've made enemy of the Empire. Vader's not going to forgive us destroying the Death Star. He'll hunt us, obsessively. We need to be ready for retaliation that makes previous encounters look friendly. Then we prepare, Weir decided. We help the rebellion while researching dimensional return. We fight the Empire while maintaining hope of going home. We do both. Because that's what the Atlantis expedition does. We don't choose between moral obligation and personal desire. We find way to honor both, even when it seems impossible. Especially when it seems impossible, Taylor corrected with smile. Because impossible is where we excel. The conversation continued. Planning future operations, calculating resource needs, debating whether they'd become permanent residents of this galaxy or would eventually find return. But outside, the galaxy was changing. The Death Star's destruction had inspired. Occupied worlds were rising. Imperial control was weakening. And all because Ancient City had crossed dimensions and decided that tyranny was unacceptable, regardless of what galaxy practiced it. Somewhere in deep space, aboard the Executor, Darth Vader meditated on his defeat and felt rage that transcended normal dark side fury. The dimensional refugees had destroyed the Empire's ultimate weapon, had proven the dark side wasn't supreme, had given hope to rebellion that should have been crushed, that could not stand, would not be tolerated. Vader would hunt them, find them, and demonstrate that ancient technology, however advanced, could not protect them from dark side wielded with absolute commitment to their destruction. But he also felt something else. Something he hadn't experienced in 20 years. Respect for worthy opponents who fought with conviction that matched his own, who refused to surrender despite impossible odds, who embodied principles absolutely even when those principles opposed everything he believed. In another life, in another time, Anakin Skywalker might have admired them, might have fought beside them, might have been friend rather than enemy. But that Anakin was dead. Only Vader remained, and Vader would destroy what he could not dominate. The hunt continued. The war escalated, and Atlantis, city of the ancients, fortress from another dimension, symbol of hope in galaxy that had almost forgotten what hope meant, prepared for battles ahead.